People can be very frustrated when they think they're doing the right thing. They're getting a good deal when they go ahead with having some equipment installed. Fast forward 3 years down the road, and they find out that they can't get a hold of the company that did the work. There's a problem with the product. They call another company in to have a look at it to fix it, and there's no warranty on registration, and they also can't get a hold of the parts that they need to fix it, even if they have to pay full price for the parts. Also, the service call now is another charge that they're having to face. So watch this video and you tell me what you think, and let that guide you to how you do your shopping. Pick something that at least you know the company is going to stand behind and the equipment's going to have some decent warranty. So let's get to it.
I went out to look at a ductless mini split system at a commercial property out in the country. It was cold, snowing, and quiet when I arrived. The kind of place where you don't expect problems and you definitely don't expect surprises. The reason for the visit was a noise. One of the indoor ductless units was squeaking, not a rattle, not airflow, a squeal that sounded like a bearing starting to fail. That immediately stood out to me because these units weren't old. They were only about 4 to 5 years into their life. That's not very long for a system like this to start making that kind of noise. As I walked through the building, I took a closer look at the indoor units. They were high-wall ductless heads mounted near the ceiling. At first glance, nothing looked obviously damaged, but something else stood out. I couldn't find a brand name on the indoor units. That's unusual. Normally, even before you open a panel, you can tell who made the equipment. Here, that information just wasn't there. I checked the other indoor unit as well. Same thing. No clear identification. I asked whether this unit was making noise too, or if it was just the first one. The sound wasn't as noticeable on this one yet, but the concern was the same. When equipment is this young, it shouldn't be asking for attention like this. Next, I looked for paperwork, warranty documents, installation records, anything that could help trace the system back to its manufacturer or installer. What I found raised more questions. There was very little information, no clear warranty card, no obvious manufacturer listed. Even the remote control didn't have a brand name on it. At this point, the visit became less about fixing a noise and more about figuring out what we were actually dealing with. It felt like detective work. Eventually, we found an invoice. The system had been installed in 2022, 2 indoor ductless heads and 1 outdoor unit. The total cost with tax was just over $10,000. This wasn't cheap equipment, and that's an important point. This wasn't a case of someone cutting corners to save a few dollars. From the owner's perspective, this should have been a solid long-term investment, but here we were only a few years later chasing noise issues and missing information. That's when the real lesson starts to show up. Price alone doesn't tell you how a system will age. It doesn't tell you how easy it will be to service, and it definitely doesn't tell you how easy it will be to get parts or warranty support down the road. Identifying the equipment, was difficult. The installer's information was limited. The paperwork didn't clearly point back to a manufacturer, and that creates a problem later, not on install day, but years afterward when something goes wrong, when a part is needed, when time matters. Ductless systems are compact by design. Everything is packed tightly inside. That makes proper design, build quality, and long-term support even more important. Because when something fails inside one of these units, access and repair aren't always simple. None of this means the decision was wrong at the time. It means the risks weren't obvious when the system was new, and that's something most homeowners and business owners never get warned about. This is why slowing down matters, not rushing the decision, not just comparing prices, but asking questions about serviceability, parts availability, and long-term support. Because the real cost of a system often doesn't show up on the invoice. It shows up years later when something small starts to make noise. Eventually, all I could do that day was gather information, take pictures, document what I could, and dig deeper after the visit. Some problems don't have instant answers, and some decisions deserve time. That's the lesson here. Quiet problems can turn into loud lessons if you're not given the full picture up front, and the best decisions are almost always the ones made slowly, with clarity and without pressure.
So sometimes it's better to slow down and take a little longer. Looking into who's doing the work, what equipment's being installed, And whether there's real support behind it matters more than most people realize. Because when something starts to go wrong, the warranty, the parts, and the company standing behind it are what determine whether it's a small repair or a big problem. This was a quiet issue that turned into a loud lesson. And it's one worth learning before you're forced to learn it the hard way. So stay comfortable, but stay tuned.